122. 122. No, that's not the number of people with us today. 122 refers to the amount of, on average, the conscious decisions that you make every day. A recent study was done by a company, and they said, unconsciously, you'll make 35,000 decisions every day, just unconsciously. But conscious, deliberate, thoughtful decisions that you make are about 122 every day. That comes out to be about every 9 minutes on average, you're making a conscious decision. You say, well, how'd you come to that? Well, if we factor in that you slept 6 hours in a day, that leaves 18 hours. That's if you slept 6 hours. Some of you sleep 8, some of you sleep 3. It just depends on who you are. But, if we just factor that in and you divide all those things out and do the math, and I'm not going to ask you to do today, it averages about every 9 minutes you're making a conscious decision. So far, since we've gathered here and started our time together, you've already made 4 or possibly 5 conscious decisions based upon the average. Over our time together in God's Word, depending on how long I go, you'll make anywhere from 3 to 12 decisions. I'll let you do that math. But, so we have these important decisions. And the question that I have for you is, imagine what life would be like if out of those 122 decisions, you were making the majority, if not all of them, to bring God glory. Imagine what your life would be like. Imagine what your family life would be like if we took the deliberate decisions that we make, conscious decisions that we make every day, and ensured that we brought God glory with those decisions. People ask a lot, how does the Bible help me make decisions? Does the Bible help me make decisions? Can the Bible help me make decisions? And the answer is yes, the Bible absolutely can help you make decisions. Today, I want to bring out to the forefront 2 Proverbs. They're both in the same chapter, makes it easy for us all. It's going to be over in Proverbs chapter 18. I'm going to have them both on the screen, but if you would, I encourage you to get your Bible out in whatever capacity you do. Go over to Proverbs chapter 18 because we're going to find 2 Proverbs that give us some helpful points. And I want to talk about those 2, and then I want to give you some practical assistance in making decisions because we make them, and sometimes we struggle with making them. We're not sure if I made the right one. How do I make better decisions? How can I bring God more glory in my decisions? Which I think affects every one of us here today. So the first one comes out of Proverbs 18, and it's verse 13. And it says this, "The one who gives an answer before he listens, this is foolishness and a disgrace for him." And then in 15, it says, "The mind of the discerning acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks it." So let's unpack these for just a couple of minutes together. First of all, we get the idea that the one who gives an answer before he listens. In other words, if you don't listen long enough and you speak too quickly, you can get yourself in trouble. Anybody that's been married longer than 6 minutes knows this to be true. And that's everybody involved in the situation. This is all of us. If we don't listen, we can get ourselves in trouble. And it's just the reality of life. This happens at school, it happens at work, it happens in family relationships, it happens in friend relationships. How many things break down because we just didn't listen? How many problems could we have avoided if we just listened? And that's why this proverb is so true. We need to listen. But here's the thing. We need to be careful about who we listen to. It needs to be trusted people. We need to listen to trusted people. People that we know have our best interest in mind. And that's where you have to be aware of who are you hanging out with. Who are you allowing to define you? Who are you allowing to help guide you in the processes of your life? Are they people who actually have your best interest in mind or not? So you need to be aware of who are you listening to and recognize that these need to be trusted people. Further, they also need to be wise people. Wise people. People that have been down the road a little longer than you have. Possibly a lot longer than you have. But somebody who's traveled this journey before you. Whether you want to call them a guide or a mentor or a discipler or whatever you want to call them, we all need somebody in our life that's traveled the road a little longer that we listen to. And they provide that trusted, wise counsel over us and bring that help to our lives. When we are making decisions, we need to make sure that we have trusted, wise people involved in our decision-making process. You know, Aaron, I don't have that kind of time. You just told me that every 9 minutes I'm making a decision. I don't know how I can do that. Over the course of time, the trusted and the wise will help you in the overall decision-making process. The second thing that we see here is that we need to have some considerations. I'm going to trip over that. The mind of the discerning, in verse 15, the mind of the discerning acquires knowledge. The discerning mind is somebody who sits and thinks about it. They consider it. They meditate on it. They're not making quick, rash decisions. Now, sometimes we can take too long to make a decision. Sometimes we don't take long enough to make a decision. So there's a balance that we have to find in that process. And the mind of the discerning provides you that opportunity because you are going to make some considerations. Imagine a triangle, if you will. Imagine a triangle, and that triangle has 3 points to it. And if you remember your geometry, do you remember how to find the center of a triangle? To find the center of the triangle, you have to draw a line from the point to the center line across from it. So you've got 3 lines that converge at one point, and that's the center of that triangle. And if you want to find God's will for your decision making, you need to make sure that you're finding the center of a triangle of 3 things. And those 3 things are the facts of a decision, the feelings of a decision, and the faith involved in that decision. When you balance those things, you're going to find the center of God's will. But here's the problem. We don't always do that, do we? In fact, sometimes we can skew it. And if we're not in balance with these 3 things, then what you're going to find is you're going to find that center bubble moves in that triangle out of the center into another space. For example, if you are a facts-only kind of person when it comes to decision making, you're going to notice that bubble is going to move out of the center and up to the top of the triangle. That is a facts-only decision. This is the Spock syndrome. This is somebody who just give me the facts. I just need data. I need a T-chart. I've got a pro. I've got a con. That's all I need. Don't mess with any feelings about this situation. Feelings have no business in decision making, some people would suggest. Some people would also suggest that keep your faith out of that decision. Well, all we need is the facts. Just give me the facts. If I have a chart, if I have a graph, if I have data points, this is your spreadsheet people. The ones that you give me a solid spreadsheet, I can make some good decisions on that, right? These are the people that all they want is the facts. The problem is, if you only want the facts in a decision, you're not going to find the center of that. You're not going to be in the most peaceful place that you could be. You haven't fully listened and you haven't fully discerned. Proverbs 18, 13, and 15. You haven't listened and discerned. You may have listened to the facts, but you're not even listening to yourself. You're not even listening to the Bible or a trusted guide in your Christian walk. All you've said is, I just need the facts and I'm going to make that decision. And some people will do that on the regular and then wonder why they're all alone in life. Why? Because that becomes a cold and a calculated individual that is hard to love and hard to be around. And so what happens is we're outside of God's will. We're just making decisions based on facts only. We've left faith all the way out of the deal. Or we can go to another extreme. I only make decisions based upon feelings. If you want to be in this category, this is where we get in trouble more than any place else. You know, when I was growing up in the 70s and the 80s, there was a phrase that came out. If it feels good, do it. How much trouble did we all get in following that? There's a lot of things that feel good, very rarely are they healthy. You know? And that's the problem. You can be the adrenaline rush junkie that is just making all your decisions based on the adrenaline rush of the situation. You can also be paralyzed by fear, unable to make a decision because you're relating it all upon your feelings. These kinds of situations and the people that fall into the feelings only category are causing problems. These are the enablers. I found more people that facing addiction realities in their life that fell into this category. Their feelings, everything. If it feels good, I'm going to do it. If it feels good, and they run on emotion. Everything's an emotional decision. Everything's a dramatic moment. Not everything is, but feelings are important. Because if you want to find the center, you have to have a balance of that. Just not an overbalance of that. Not an overemphasis of bringing feelings into the situation. Or then you've got another group. They are faith only. Now you say, no, that's kind of odd. I would have thought you wanted us to be faith only. Well, there are extremes to that. One would be, let me give you an example. And this is a true story. Names have been changed to protect the innocent. Joe, what's what we're going to call him, Joe came into my office and said, Pastor, and I've told you this story before, but it fits here. I need a job. I said, hey, Joe, I can help you with that. I know the manager down at a couple places. I can get you a job. No, that's okay. God's going to give me a job. Well, Joe, that is awesome. I believe that God will provide you a job. What have you done about it, though? I mean, do you want to go talk to a manager that I can give you No, God's going to give me a job. Okay. Now, this will tell you how old the story, how long ago this happened. Have you read the newspaper and checked the classifieds yet of all the opportunities of jobs? Today it would be, have you been on Indeed yet to find out what job you can find? No, I haven't looked at anything, haven't read it. Have you filled out any application? No, I haven't filled out any applications. Have you talked to any? No, I'm talking to you. And I said, Joe, I understand that you fully believe God's going to give you a job. Yes, sir, that's right. He also gave you a mind to consider it, and he gave you eyes to go look and feet to go to it and a mouth to go and investigate. You have other things that you need to balance. If we only say, well, God's going to do it. I have no doubt God can do it. But if he's going to do everything, why did he give you a mind and a heart and hands and a mouth and a voice? Why did he give us all these things? Why did he wire me with emotions if I'm supposed to eliminate all of that from the process? So we have to be careful. Another part in this would be the going into a double. You've got facts and feelings. People they eliminate faith from the process. Those that go into the facts and the feelings. If you remember your Old Testament, you remember that Joshua had taken the children of Israel across the Jordan into Israel, the promised land. They were taking it over, enjoying the fruits of that opportunity, right? Well, there came a group of people from Gibeon. And Gibeon and the Gibeonites had decided, you know what, we're scared we're going to get taken over. And so what they did is they put on old clothes, old shoes, raggedy things, took molded bread with them, and went to Joshua. We've been on a long journey, but we've heard about you. Could we have a relationship with each other? Could we have this agreement? And Joshua heard. He gathered all those facts, and this felt right. You know the one thing he didn't do? He didn't pray about it. He didn't pray. He didn't seek God about this. He had all the facts, and he had some feelings about it, and so he engaged in this only to find out that he had been lied to, only to find out that he'd been duped, only to find out that this was not what was supposed to happen. In fact, God had said, don't make any agreement with anybody here. Gibeon was apparently outside of the lines according to what they'd been told. He just relied on all of that. This is a reason why we can't just have facts and feelings involved in a situation. We need to bring our faith into every decision-making thing every decision we make. The other side of that would be the facts and of faith, and we eliminate feelings from it altogether. I would have you go and look at the Pharisees in the New Testament. Look at the Pharisees in the gospel. They had all the facts right, and they had a faith. They were doing it because of their faith. But Jesus didn't have a lot of time for them. Why? Because they had no real care or concern for other people. They didn't bring an emotional position into this at all. They were just like, hey, here it is, you do this, you do whatever. And what happens in a modern day terminology of that would be legalism. Here's the facts, and this is based upon so boom, here we go. And I don't really care about you, I just want you to live up to what I'm telling you to do. And that causes problems. Again, we're not in a complete balanced situation here. Another place that you can be is down at the bottom. You can be in a combination of feelings and faith, where you have a lot of emotion and you've tied it to a religious experience, but you've left out some very important details. Let me give you an example. Again, we'll go back to an Old Testament example. Israel was at the bottom of Mount Sinai, and Moses had gone up to receive a word from the Lord. And he had tarried a while. He'd been there a little while. And you know what? The people got anxious. Is Moses dead? Is Moses gone? Is Moses coming back? I don't know. Hey, Aaron, I need you to, let's make an idol so that we can bow down and worship it. They had a lot of feelings about that. And they tied it to their faith. But the fact of the matter is, they were not supposed to worship anything else other than the one true God. And so here they are not evaluating things properly and not understanding things properly. We need, if we're going to be better listeners and make better decisions, and if we're going to have the mind of a discerning, acquiring knowledge, then we need to make sure that we are embracing all three of these things. When you go to make one of your 122 decisions today, and tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, you need to understand there are facts involved in every decision that you make. But there's also some emotion that's there, and God can bring you that. Well, how does God use emotion? This is where the peace of God that passes all understanding comes into play. Do I have a peace about this? You say, well, am I supposed to do that for every decision? I would suggest until you make this a habit, yes. You need to slow down in your decision making and until you get the habit going in your life and you have practiced this on a regular basis of taking the facts of a situation coupled with the faith, and that's where you may go to your Bible, find out that, pray about that, seek wise counsel, seek a Christian advisor over your life to help you engage in that. Well, I don't know the Bible. Find somebody who does and engage in a conversation. And finally, do I have peace about this decision? You're making 122 decisions. We're sitting right now as you have made, on average, 3 decisions since I started talking. 3 decisions since I started talking. Are they decisions that would glorify God? Are they decisions that are found in the center of God's will? Are they decisions that would honor Him? Are they decisions that would be gospel related? What kind of decisions have you made? If we're going to make godly decisions, if we're going to make decisions that glorify Him, then we must balance the things that we have at our disposal. We have a mind and we think through it. We have a heart and we feel through it. We have a Bible and trusted advisors to guide us through it. Utilize what God has already granted you in making your decisions. The greatest decision that you can ever make is the decision that you make about Jesus Christ. And that involves all of these things. The facts of the matter are that while we were yet sinners, Christ died. God loved me that much. And how do I feel about that? Well, I know how I felt before I gave my life to Christ, and I know how I feel now that I have given my life to Christ, and I don't want to go back. And if I were in that situation, I would tell you, you know what? The chaos and the crisis and the drama and the fear and the unrest that you're facing, those things can be answered in and through a relationship with Jesus Christ. There are feelings involved in this. And ultimately, there's faith, because we aren't there, we weren't there, we can't see it. We have to have faith in what the Bible tells us. And that's a faith decision. Some people are not prepared yet to make that decision, a faith decision. But I'm telling you, that's your first and greatest decision that you can make in your life. And you can make 122 decisions today. But you can make 122 decisions tomorrow and the next day. But if you have never made the decision to put faith and trust into Jesus Christ, you're going to feel that in the long run. You need to make that decision first. To understand that God provided the pathway for you to receive forgiveness of the guilt you have before God that you cannot get rid of on your own. And until you make a faith decision in Jesus Christ, you are still standing in a guilty position before God. But when you choose Jesus, you choose life. Just like the song we sang, my testimony, it's from death to life. It's from darkness to light. It's from chaos to peace. It's from sadness to joy. All of these things that I want in life, I cannot get on my own outside of a relationship with Jesus Christ. And if you have yet to make that decision, I would love to talk with you about that in just a moment. But for the rest of you that have made, if you can say honestly, sincerely, truly, I've made a faith decision in what Jesus did that I could, if you've done that, that's great. My question for you is, are you balancing your decision making in the center of God's will? Or are you skewing it and wondering why your life is so messed up? I challenge you, if you want the peace of God in your heart and life, the decision-making process is key. Because you're going to find yourself, you're going to put yourself into the center of God's will, because you're going to hear Him, acknowledge Him, and follow Him in your decision-making. How's your decision-making going? Are there adjustments that maybe you need to make in your decision-making process? In just a moment, we're going to have a time of response, and we're going to be singing a song. And if you maybe need to stop and just take a moment and pray before God, say, God, you know what? I've recognized today that I've been out of balance. I've not been in the center. I've been to one of the edges. God, I need your help. Help me to get back into the center so I can bring you glory and honor in my decision making. Maybe you're here today and say, I need to make that very important decision about Jesus Christ. I'd love to talk with you in just a moment.